Live. Welcome everybody to another classy stranger episode, you could say. I do like that name. I think it fits. I'm one of your hosts of this crazy kooky podcast, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, aka the Raptillion. Who else do I have in this bitch?
Reverend Kaiju, aka the Taprillion.
Haha, that's funny.
You know what the worst part about this is? Every time I don't have any of these cool aliases, so I'm like, I feel like if I come up with something, it's like cringy because it's just like trying to copy and be like, yeah, I have one too. I'm just plain old Aaron.
Aaron is in this bitch. I'll think of an alias for you one day.
Yeah,
If you, it was funny for Anton will know this, for a long time on the podcast, I ran out of names eventually, but I would always call Billy something else. It would be like Billy Zane, fucking Billy Nelson, the most ridiculous names. Eventually, like I called them billiards. And eventually I just ran out of steam because I couldn't think of any more. It's like so funny though. But yeah, we all have, Billy just is Billy. He's like, I'm Billy. I'm here. So he's like, you're not the only one that doesn't really have a nickname.
That doesn't make me feel as bad then.
We call Billy old Wide Eyes is his nickname.
Old Wide Eyes?
I'm gonna call him that next time.
Oh my god.
So this is really interesting, actually. And you know, for our listeners, you'll be hearing this a little more often. We've connected a lot with Aaron, and we all are becoming like a little family. So I want to do more classy stranger episodes, and this will probably lead into another one after this. And we're not going to mention it just yet, but this will lead into other podcasts that we'll be doing. It kind of is gonna creep up towards something even creepier than this, but let's go to Ireland. We're talking about the Irish Vanishing Triangle. And I've never heard about this at all. And
yeah,
I feel like I've heard about a lot of vanishing triangles. Me and Anton just covered the Michigan fucking triangle like not that long ago. And we're really digging that episode because it is weird how many at least this one is slightly different though. It's not like we're majority of like vanishing triangles or like, you know, the Bermuda Triangle or like the one in Japan, how it's like boats and ships go missing. This is just a bunch of women walking down a road and then they disappear.
Well, the one in Japan we all know is because of Godzilla, so
yeah,
that mystery is solved immediately.
Do you know what? I think for years over here, it was always kind of out there, but only maybe in more modern times. Probably since like the invention of things like these Netflix true crime things. Now all of a sudden it's like mainstream.
Yeah,
there's been like 2 or 3 books. There was a book recently, written by a guy called Barry Cummins, which was like
it's spelled like cum.
went straight to #1, and it says it's about Ireland's vanished women and children, but it's basically entirely about the Vanishing Triangle.
Have you finished it yet?
Yeah, I've actually read it like 2 or 3 times. I was just skimming through it again.
You read a book 2 or 3 times? Jesus, I got one round.
That's normally me, but I don't know. I became fascinated with this, maybe because it's so close to home.
Where are you? Because I did see the map of you know, it's kind of on the fringes of like Kilkenny and stuff like that. And where are you?
I'm in Wexford, so I'm down in like the southeast.
Okay, yeah, because I was looking at a map of it, and it is weird. I was like, maybe one day, I was talking to my girlfriend, I was like, you know what would be nice if traveling was free, if we lived more of in a utopia. It's a fucking farce, but like the fact that it would be cool if it was just super cheap to travel and you could just be able to, because I'd love to go to Ireland and like just climb some fucking mountains and shit and go drink at a pub and get all fucked up.
I feel like they'd kick you out, Tom, the moment you set foot on Irish soil. They'd just be like, get this guy the fuck out of here.
I have Irish blood in me, so I'd be like, "It's me, and I'm coming back to my home." Like, fucking try to do my Irish accent.
God.
I gotta get the oil. Ireland.
He has Irish blood in him, but he's trying to get something more than blood in him in Ireland. So
Yeah, there's some good-looking chicks.
that's what I said.
Yeah, if you're gonna climb mountains, just make sure you don't go anywhere near the Wicklow Mountains, because that's where a lot of these stories seem to kind
Leprechauns
of.
are from?
No, this is where all these stories kind of end up.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're women. Men aren't scared.
Well, do you know what, right? And we'll get into this a little bit later because I want to kind of focus on this guy, and he might actually come up in that future episode you're talking about again.
Yes.
There is a guy by the name of Larry Murphy, and I will say that over here, the name Larry Murphy has always been kind of like I don't want to say used as a joke, but like I suppose me and some of the people I hang out with were a bit sick in the head, so it's like, you know, if somebody's leaving a party and they're like walking home alone. We live in like a, you know, a pretty large town, but not large enough to be like a city.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and we'd always be like, "Oh, make sure Larry Murphy doesn't get you."
So you have like a lore to do with it, almost like, oh, Ted Bundy's gonna get you, or fucking if you're in
Yeah.
Milwaukee, it's like Jeffrey, beware of the chocolate factory. Jeffrey Dahmer's gonna fucking eat your face.
And then I suppose one of the women that was potentially involved in this whole triangle actually went missing in Wexford. So that's another part
wow.
of this whole story. Yeah, and Larry Murphy has a lot of ties to Wexford.
And like we said, we'll get into it, but who knows, it might be a serial killer. But it is strange, let's say, that like all these women did go missing. It is a really weird case. A second, how even to like my girlfriend about how many people do actually go missing and how just vanish without a trace. Nobody knows where they are. But in this case, it might have been the cops being lazy, like a lot of times. You know,
I was gonna say, what do you mean in this case? That's like the case more often than not when you have missing people and the less dead. As the cops are just like, I don't really feel like dealing with that.
And yeah, obviously, there's a statistic, right? You have like where, you know, women are more likely to obviously disappear, and they're more scared to be walking on their own. Men are not necessarily the same. I was watching a little video, and this woman talks about how this was close to home, and she walks everywhere with like fucking a hood over her head and her keys in her hand because this shit like freaked her out, and she was around the area of where this was at. So frightening.
Yeah, and I suppose you know, it being in Ireland in the 90s, we were probably a little bit more. I think sometimes when I see maybe like the American, Canadian, even maybe UK perspective on some of this stuff, it seems to be like you know, well, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? It was at a time in Ireland where, you know, if you didn't live with your family, not talking to them for maybe a week, 2 weeks wasn't really out of the ordinary. There was no cell phones, or very,
Yeah.
very few in Ireland. You know, you had to walk to a phone box.
Oh,
Yeah,
no kidding!
sure.
In the 90s?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
shit. Wow.
Weird.
So like it was, and I think that had a pretty big part to play in a lot of this stuff. It was a lot more common for, you know, people to go maybe a week or two without seeing each other, and you know, you would be hitching lifts and stuff like that. It just didn't really, I don't think, phase a lot of people. Now, it's a bit strange when, like, you know, every 3 months somebody's gone missing within this small area. I mean, Ireland is a pretty small country to start with, but then when you actually condense it down into it basically, the triangle is basically, we have different we have different constituencies, I suppose you would call. So Leinster is basically what covers this entire triangle. So kind of say from like Dublin down as far as somewhere like Waterford, and then across to Wexford, and then back up to Dublin. So it kind of forms a triangle. It's a very, like, it's strange. It's a very large area, but also an extremely small area, I think, for so many people to go missing.
Go missing, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it. The term Ireland's Vanishing Triangle was coined by the Irish media in relation to unexplained disappearances of 6 women throughout Eastern Ireland during the mid-1990s. The assumed first victim in the Vanishing Triangle is one of Ireland's most famous missing person cases, the American woman of Annie McCormick. I think it's McCormick. Who went missing in the spring of 1993. For whatever reason, Some of the cases in this series obviously garner more attention than others from law enforcement, the media, and the public. By 1998, numerous women had been reportedly missing in the Eastern Ireland during the previous 5 years. When 19-year-old, is her name Deirdre? Deirdre Jacob vanished just yards from her home in the summer of 1998. The Irish Police Commissioner Pat Bryan set up an operation to trace in hope of obviously determining if these 6 specific cases involving missing women were linked, or if, say, maybe a serial killer or killers were operating through the eastern region of Ireland. The number of cases in this series has been obviously disputed, as there are possible links to cases going far back as the 1980s. So this is quite prevalent. And I think it seemed like a lot of the cases they were like, oh, people just, leave and they go hang out with their friends and then they're gone for 2 weeks. Okay, bud.
No, but that makes sense if the communication is so sparse that it's like, oh, okay, well, they just got busy and didn't want to call somebody. So it's not like you can just shoot a text and be like, hey, what are you up to?
Since I don't have to fucking read anything, I'm gonna hit a bong. I just bought this new one. It's cool. It's like, look at it. It's got a little weird fucking shit.
That is a cute, nifty little bong.
Yeah, like
sorry, I was gonna say you said you're from Wexford, right?
Yep.
Okay, I pulled up a map of Ireland just to get a frame of reference from what you're talking about, and you were saying it goes from like Dublin to Arklow to Kilkenny. That's where the triangle is, or it's Dublin to Wexford to Kilkenny?
Yeah, well, you see, I suppose if you add in, like, a lot of these cases are disputed and over time now have kind of been disregarded, and people say that they aren't part of the Vanishing Triangle. But I think if you include like majority of the cases, and there's even more than we'll probably talk about today, it goes from Dublin basically to Wexford, then kind of, I would say, across as far as like the Waterford area, which would be just to the left.
Oh, no shit. Yeah, that's pretty big. That's like, I'd say, what, like a third of the country itself, not counting Northern Ireland?
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts.
You think if I dressed up like a woman and walked around this area that I would go missing? I would go vanishing. I'd just cross-dress a little bit. Are you allowed to say that anymore?
So, like, in the first case, the most famous one, and I would imagine it's because she was an American living in Dublin, is probably why that was the most like looked at.
Yeah.
The story goes that on the days she was last seen, she left her apartment and I think she had rang somebody, a friend or something like that, or someone she was in college with or studying with, and she wanted to go and visit the Wicklow Mountains. Now, I actually made a note of this for anybody who doesn't have any reference. So the Wicklow Mountains are the largest continuous upland area in the Republic of Ireland. It's spread across several counties from Dublin, Wicklow, Carlow, and Wexford. The area consists of dense bogland and grass, with only 3 major passes going through the mountains that are less than 2,000 feet. So it's a hugely popular tourist attraction. Like, in Ireland,
gorgeous. I can see why.
Yeah, like and even with Irish people, it's quite popular. But the area is so dense with like overgrown forestry and different things like that. I just found it really bizarre, and maybe because she was, not as, I suppose, maybe privy to that area, but it sounded really bizarre to me that she went to a supermarket or a grocery store at like I think 3:40 p.m. that day, and then after that got a bus from where she was out towards the Wicklow Mountains. Now, to me, 4 p.m. heading for an area like that seems really, really bizarre.
I know. Sure, so what are you doing there? Like,
I mean, do people tent camp there and everything, or is it mostly?
I mean, you can do, but I don't think that was. I couldn't find anywhere that was ever her intention.
Okay.
So when her friend turned down the offer and said she couldn't make it, she decided to get the bus and go anyway. And
it's fucking weird.
She didn't bring anything that like indicated that she was like, staying anywhere. So it was just, it seems really weird to me that she was making a journey out to somewhere like that.
This is not the one that the parents thought were suicidal, right? Or is it?
There's a couple of cases where that kind of comes up, and I don't know if that's just something that people used to like dismiss or whatever. But
Yeah. Because it's quite possible. Like in one, I don't know what woman it was, and they were talking about how her parents thought she was kind of suicidal, but she gave no indications of like a letter or anything like that. And I was like, sometimes people just do it. They don't
Mhm.
think about anything else, and they just go and they get the deed done.
Well,
And
there are a lot of people that do commit suicide who everyone just says that I had no idea. It's like because they've kept it
yeah,
completely bottled up. So it's always possible, but
it is weird. Like what drove her to this place? Is there any do you know in this forestry, is there any other folklore like to do with is there any like I don't know, fucking Irish Bigfoot sightings or entities or any weird folklore surrounding the
No,
forest?
and it's weird. Not that I really know of, to be honest. And I'm always like, damn, I wish we had like a Bigfoot story or something. But honestly, right, and this sounds a
You
little
have
bit
leprechauns
ridiculous,
as your shit.
but Larry Murphy is actually like I would consider him like
A
something like that.
Bigfoot?
He is like this strange like myth of like, you know, I think after all this happened, and we'll see a little bit later, something that he done in the Wicklow Mountains that kind of made him infamous. And since then, like he's over here and even throughout Europe, he's like considered like, an extremely, extremely dangerous person. And so much so I would say he's even considered uh the most dangerous person in Ireland or out
Is
of
he dead
Ireland.
or alive
He's
now?
alive.
And
Um
in
and
jail or is he walking
no,
around?
no, he's walking around free, and he's lived in multiple areas around Leinster, which would be around that,
Yeah.
area that he grew up in different places. He's been spotted in Dublin, he's been spotted in Wexford, he's been spotted in Waterford.
And he is
Uh,
said to be a serial killer, right? That's the
yeah, he's
that's the
connected to
idea.
at least four of these.
wow.
And you'll see a little bit later. I done a little bit more digging, and there's way too many coincidences, and there's way too many strange. Like he shows up in the background in like other cases somehow.
Yeah, that is weird. And considering me and Anton mentioned it, right? Where it's just like, how you don't like people like serial killer stuff like that. It's like if you're connected to like two people missing, all right, that's suspicious. But when it's like you're connected to four people, it's just like just gone, vanished, missing, don't know where they are. It's like if any of us had a connection to one, we would be called in by the cops.
Oh
And
yeah,
never
we're
did.
gonna be fucking interrogated like there's no tomorrow. But
It's
Yeah,
fucking weird.
it's
and
like
like
one person you can almost kind of be like, okay, well they knew a lot of people or they knew so and so. It's not just
Yeah.
this one person, but it's two people. They're just like, hey, what's going on here? Why are you, connected to so many people that are missing? So what's
and
the deal? There's just not enough evidence to like.
yeah, and like you'll see now after I'll do a quick run through of some of the cases first, and then you'll kind of
Yeah.
see after that. Then we'll tie it back into him. But like, look, Ireland is a lot smaller, obviously, than the States,
Mhm.
Canada, England, different places like that. But I don't believe that it's small enough for him to coincidentally be in
Yeah.
all these different places and know all these different people.
Yeah.
And it just
That is
happens to be
strange.
like, oh yeah, I'm just a guy who likes to kind of travel around the country. It's like, how are you always around like these
Missing
places?
Well,
people.
yeah. Well, how are you always here when something bad happens? Like you're either connected or you're a harbinger. In which case, fuck off.
Yeah.
There with this case of Annie McCarrick as well. There was a doorman for a pub in Glencullen called Johnny Fox's, and he said that he had seen her there that night with an unknown male.
Okay.
Um, Nobody ever saw her or the male leave the pub. Nobody's ever come forward. No one's ever identified him. A lot of people think it's mistaken identity. Um, that night was like wet, windy, like extremely dark, and the area that she got off the bus would have been 6 kilometers away. Now,
Yeah, and never rely on people's memories.
yeah,
It's been proven time and time again that people's memories suck, especially when it comes to true crime events.
Well, that's
You
why
know,
eyewitness accounts are only,
yeah,
half taken into account on
it's
court
true.
cases and stuff. You need actual physical evidence to convict somebody.
Yeah, take a picture next time. Just take a picture everywhere you go. Just take pictures of people. Okay, eventually there'll be a murder around you, and you'll be able to be like, "This is the guy. This is what he looked like." Just yeah. Wait, the government's already doing that. They got cameras everywhere, so we're fine.
um, in recent years, actually, there was talk of an IRA killer who apparently was a regular in that pub, and he was there that night, and he got talking with her. Apparently, she was like quite an attractive girl.
So
Mhm.
tell people
Um,
what the IRA is, if they don't know, because there are
it's
some
the
Canadians and Americans that wouldn't.
Irish Republican Army.
There was beef going on in the 90s, wasn't there?
Yeah,
Was
like
the 80s,
they're
90s? Wasn't it? It
yeah,
was like a long time because it's the whole Northern Ireland, England connection, right?
and like and again, this will sound ridiculous, but I suppose being in a country as small as Ireland, like I will probably, I would imagine when this comes out, um
You'll probably vanish.
well, this will be around, so that's why like, and this might sound ridiculous to some people, but I like to be a little bit careful about some topics because the IRA, some people don't believe that that's a thing, or it's like stuff on like movies, whatever.
Mhm.
It's really real, and a lot of people who were involved in the IRA are now like retired, or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
and they're scattered throughout the country. So, but
So
you'll
you
always
talking
see,
about this, you're gonna get a fucking hit put on your head.
well, they're essentially and this is not my opinion, but they were essentially a terrorist group, um, and done a lot of crazy things. And for a long time, I think it was pitched to the Irish people that it was like they were defending the land,
Mhm.
and they were like sticking it to the English, and they were doing this and they were doing that. And then over time, it turns out that a lot of these dudes were like child rapists, murderers, like would just like do loads of crazy shit to people,
Oh
whoever they
fuck.
wanted, and get away with it. Then over time, I think guys kind of like fizzled out of the IRA, but kind of, I suppose, used their connections and stuff to become like hitmen and stuff
I
like
don't know.
that.
You like killing, right? Like you
But,
got
but
it. There is certain people, right, that even join like the army or the military or go to like be Russian to go to war just because they want to get that thrill. And then
Mhm.
they start getting used to, especially in a war setting, and you start getting used to like killing people, or then you're like, I kind of like this. This is my purpose. I'm good at this. And that's
Those are
like,
the
all
ones
right.
that usually go career and volunteer for a bunch of crazy shit because those people, honestly, at least in America, more often than not, those people don't come back. They end up getting killed in battle.
Everyone praises the sniper. What's his name? Chris, whatever. I think
Chris
he's
Kyle
just
is it?
serial
Yeah, I'm
killer.
not even gonna fucking go into that fucking Nazi
I think
shithead.
he's a psycho.
He is.
Psychopath.
He's absolutely. I don't know, man. I'm not pro war.
Me
So
neither. So, back to
um,
Ireland.
the Yeah, so apparently, now I don't know how true this is, or it could be just one of those like fucking rumors that people make up. Apparently he had got talking to her. Now she had no knowledge that this dude had ever been involved in anything, and they got talking about their lives. And as the drink was flowing, that there was a possibility that he had slipped something about something he had done or been involved in, and then as a result, somebody there with him had said, no, she needs to go like ASAP.
oh fuck.
I used to know this girl. Like I used to know this girl. She's vanished, but I have nothing to do with it. Don't worry. He's like, you're drunk and you end up like spilling some beans. You ever see what blood looks like in the pale white moonlight? This is like, what are you talking about, man?
Now I don't know, there is a lot more. I didn't really dig too much into it, but there is a whole backstory about that particular theory. A New York based lawyer, Michael Griffith, and a team of private investigators said that they had credible information that led them to believe that Annie was never at the pub and was apparently seen by a woman, Margaret Wogan, in Poppy's Cafe in Enniskerry. She said that Annie was with a man with a very square face, and this led authorities to believe, although never having released the information, that this was a man that she had an intimate relationship with while living in Ireland.
Okay.
And there's just
Hmm.
nothing else. That's it.
Strange.
It just sounds like someone strung together a theory really quick, and they're like, "They was fucking." Like,
Very
Again, like
are they talking about that serial killer when they say very square faced, dude?
so that's something that,
Does he have a very square face?
yeah. So when I
What is his name? I'm gonna fucking bring up an image of him.
Larry Murphy, I can't say his name too much. I might summon him.
He comes up behind you.
He's a weird looking motherfucker.
We'll bring it up on the thing. What the fuck? It's it's this strange obviously what's leading up to this in the next episode is I really want to cover Irish serial killers, considering I've never really heard of any.
Mm-hmm.
This is this guy.
So I suppose that while you
Oh
guys were
wow,
pulling
yeah,
that
the
up,
dude looks
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
trouble.
yeah, he's a freaky dude.
It says he's a convicted rapist.
Oh yeah, so that and it's funny thing is what the thing he was convicted of, which we'll get to in a minute, actually has nothing to do with the Vanishing Triangle.
Wow.
weird.
So yeah, that's really weird. So 3 months after this, I
thought it was
suppose
the system.
in the aftermath of this whole whirlwind case of Annie McCarrick,
Mhm.
a woman called Eva Brennan went missing. Authorities didn't seem to care as much about this case. Eva was said to be very much a creature of habit and walked from church to her parents' house every Sunday to have dinner. She arrived at her parents' house at around 1 p.m. with the intention to have dinner as they did every single weekend. Apparently, a small argument broke out over something as insignificant and trivial as what they were going to have for dinner that evening between Eva and her siblings. This caused her to leave her parents' house. That following Tuesday, nobody had seen her, and her parents decided to visit the flat or apartment. The place seemed to be spotless and untouched, while some of her items were missing from the apartment. Her father noted that the jacket that she was wearing in their house on that Sunday, was in the apartment, which may indicate that she had returned there before she went missing.
Yeah, didn't they have to break in? They had to break her window to get in. They asked
Mhm.
some dude to
Yep.
like, here, help me fucking break this window.
The road that she had to travel to get home from her parents' house was an extremely busy road, and the family were all very well known in the area, which is unusual that nobody seen her from the time she left to head home. Her family later revealed that she suffered with bouts of depression from time to time, and this furthered the Gardaí's dismissal of her disappearance and the case in general. There was no DNA or any real investigation for nearly a month, and this may have hindered the case.
No
Yeah,
investigation for a
they didn't do
month.
anything. They said
Essentially,
she's
yeah.
probably like she was an adult, right? So they didn't like they just said she just probably left. They always do this. We're like, oh, I know my daughter it wouldn't leave and do this, and then it's just like the cops are like, adults do weird things. It's not a kid, so and this creepy fuck.
Yeah.
He's
So I know there's like the stereotype of this the smaller community being the safer community and everything like that, but like is there like a lot of violent crime in Ireland? Is it a thing
uh,
other than like the politically motivated air quotes on that type
They
stuff?
stab each other with potatoes. They use potato guns. They throw potatoes.
Christ.
If we could
Wait.
both reach through the screen and just slap you right now, Tom, what would be
I just want to
happening?
mention that his eyes, this Larry Murphy character's eyes, are very like he's possessed by some sort of
With the
evil
hood up, he
creature.
kind of looks like Jigsaw to me. He looks like Jigsaw if he gained before he started losing weight from the cancer.
He looks like Jigsaw mixed with fucking Palpatine from Star Wars.
Yeah, he does. He does look like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
But
there's-
anyway,
I-
so what's
yeah.
the violent crime situation like in Ireland?
So I would have probably said for a long time that Ireland is quite a safe and easygoing country. But the more I think you dig into these cases, the more you realize that that may not be the case.
Okay.
A lot of older generations now figured that, like, it's finally gotten here. I suppose a lot of times we would look on the news and see, like, the States and
Mhm.
places like that, and they would go, oh, all this crazy stuff happens in other countries and not here. You see the Middle East, all this shit going on.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case. I think it's just we were really good at hiding it here. And there was a lot of, and I think for the same reason of what I just said a second ago about it's quite a small country. It feels a lot of times like everyone's only maybe one or two people away from somebody who's a person away from that person.
Mhm.
So I think it's like a lot of people feel like, well, that guy, apparently her boyfriend was the one who, shh, don't say anything. We don't want to be involved. It's not our business. We don't want it at our door. Let's just shut the
Okay, yeah,
fuck
that
up.
makes
Like,
sense. Just kind of like
Canadians
keeping it
love
at
to
arm's
talk.
length. Just like I don't want anything to do with this. It's way more drama. And
And
Yeah.
like, I mean, even like the whole thing with the church here, all the priests abusing the fucking kids for years. And when
I was
that,
gonna say, yeah.
yeah, when all
it
that
seems
shit
like it's
came out,
almost worse where you guys are than anywhere else. Like you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
kind of got the brunt of it. Like
And that's because even when my grandparents were young, something as simple as if you were walking up the sidewalk and there was a priest or a member of the clergy walking towards you, it
You'd
didn't matter
run?
if there was no, it didn't matter if there was like 20 people in a group walking towards them and they were on their own. You would all have to step off onto the road and like genuflect and like bow.
I wouldn't be doing that shit.
what?
Yeah, no, they had control of, and apparently if you had went home and said, like, fucking fat or whatever,
Raped
grab
me,
my
touched my butthole, licked my
grab my
ass.
dick, or he
Yeah.
hit me or something like that.
Yeah.
If you went home and told your parents that, they'd beat the shit out of you for
Lying about
Father
the clergy.
McFun.
because they thought like that the church can do no wrong. So
That's fucked.
Right.
Father McMurray just diddled my pea stick, and
I
he
think
did not
that's
do
why-
that.
I think that's why maybe only now it's actually coming to fruition of how much crime and how many fucking sick motherfuckers there are here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
wasn't the
like
Irish Constitution? It was written up by a
bunch of
what was it, a
pedophiles.
politician and a priest, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah. So
Yeah,
the
you know,
church
that's
had direct control over a ton of stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And no wonder you guys because a lot of times, obviously, in churchy religious type settings, they're always like, we don't talk about that, keep that quiet. Like, just they don't want to see that there's a massive issue inside this faith and this thing that they worship and this place that they go, where these men that specifically maybe chose this job strictly to actually molest kids.
So
And
okay,
then
here's my other question. Was it because I know there was the stereotype here as well, like from when my grandparents were around, which was like, oh, if you don't stop fucking misbehaving, I'm gonna send you to the convent or I'm gonna send you to whatever. Was that like something that you guys had as well, where it was like wayward kids were sent to a reformatory and then became priests or became nuns and stuff? Just because I know that the washing thing is something that you guys had, right? The washrooms or whatever, that they would just take in unwed mothers. And,
the laundries.
the laundries, yes.
Yeah.
What?
The
What's it?
Magdalene laundries. That shit is like
That's just
What?
real fucked up.
What? I want to hear about this. I've never heard about this. Give
um
me a brief
so
inquiry.
there is there's these things called like I suppose mother and baby homes from years ago. So it would be like see here as well, like it was and probably until like maybe the last 40 50 years, it was very like if a young girl got pregnant or anything like that, there was a lot of like shame and like we don't want people to think our family is like lesser than anybody else. So a lot of young girls and newborn babies were sent away to these like, I suppose like similar to a convent or a boarding school or something like that. But
Cult.
over the last maybe 10 years, they've discovered like there's one in a place called Tuam, which is kind of in the middle of Ireland, and they discovered the remains of 796 dead children.
Holy fuck! That sounds like Canada with their fucking indigenous schools, the residential schools. That's fucking nuts, and I'm sure that place is
now. And this is not the only, like there's like apparently mass graves like all over Ireland and all these fucked up places, and that was one of those things where it was like the idea of being sent there was basically like, it wasn't kind of like go somewhere and just kind of start your life over. It was basically like, if I'm going there, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna get we're probably gonna be like raped and like beaten and fucking murdered or whatever.
The priests were that bad?
Oh, dude.
Nope. I thought it was the nuns that were doing most of that shit, but I would assume that for the priests, they're gonna just let them come in and
yep.
Was there a lot of gerbils around there? I make light of dark situations. I was like laughing about I'm like, yeah, they fucking diddle kids, but I laugh because I'm uncomfortable in the fact that this does happen.
So where is this place near?
So Tuam is, I don't remember exactly. Let's see. So it's in County Galway.
Okay, I see Galway. Tuam.
Yeah. Okay,
I see it.
Yeah.
So it's south of Castlebar.
Yeah. So this image that's on screen right now, it's, if you see where Tullamore County Offaly is.
Hey, Tullamore Dew's my favorite whiskey.
It would be to the left of that.
Okay.
So yeah, like you said earlier, Tom, this Eva Brennan girl that went missing in Waterford, the police basically just went, yeah, look, you did say she was like depressed from time to time, so I think she probably threw herself in the river. And
throw yourself in there. You just like go for a swim. It's like, I'm just gonna get lost within the rapids now.
I love that. That's just the fucking like. Yeah, she probably just threw herself in the river. It's fine. It's whatever. We're not looking at that anymore.
The family were like, well, there's no note. There was no like anything to suggest that a suicide was even a thing. And they went, yeah, no, we think so. And her family are still adamant that she potentially let someone into her apartment, and then that's where it happened. Because when they got to the apartment, the place was like incredibly spotless and tidy, but some of her stuff was missing. But the jacket that she had been last seen in was there.
I don't know, if
Which
you got
seemed bizarre.
chloroform, just like, and then just fucking take them into a van. It would be very quick. I've heard stories in Romania about fucking cars pulling up and like gutting someone for their fucking their organs for the black market, and it happens within seconds. Like,
that seems like an urban legend or an exaggeration. I'm sure that organ harvesting does happen, but I think the whole in a matter of seconds outside of a van seems a little sus.
You know, I've mentioned that guy on the reptilian episode. You know how I talked to that reptile expert? When I worked in restaurants, he was the pest control guy. Okay. He heard me talking about the Illuminati, and then we started getting talks. He's the one that told me that he was a reptile expert, and that it would be, if your body were to inhabit a soul, or like a body, your soul would inhabit a body, the best would be a reptile, because you'd be able to regrow limbs and all the shit that reptiles are able to do. This same guy said that his wife was on a phone with her friend, in, I think, Romania, and she was working there, and she was on the phone with him. They're married, and she's at her friend's house, or she's having a call with her friend that is in Romania. And she said she was on the phone while her kid was playing outside, and this van pulled up, and they just gutted the boy right in the middle and out in the open. She saw the big bucket, and this guy told me this story, and I don't know if it holds any truth, and they said the body just dropped, and then they got the fuck out of there, and the woman was screaming on the phone to this guy's wife.
That's pretty fantastical. That's horrifying if true.
Why would this pest control guy lie to me that fucking probably believes in reptilians?
Because he's got Dale Gribble syndrome and he was huffing too many fucking lethal chemicals.
I love that story. All right, back to
So again, this is another really short, I guess, synopsis of another case. Some of these cases were kind of really extensive, and then other ones are just kind of thrown in there, and they seem to be like, yeah, we don't give a shit. So we're moving on to Imelda Keenan, who went missing on January 3rd, 1994. She was supposedly seen walking by the Tower Hotel in Waterford City while out to collect her dole payment, which would be like a social welfare payment. Waterford is actually probably about 40 minutes from where I'm at. So she went to the post office to collect this, but it was closed due to it being a bank holiday. There are disputes about whether it was actually closed on the day in question. Did she even attempt to go and collect the payment? As the only person to say this was her fiance, who didn't report her missing.
He's guilty.
Considering that she went out to run some errands and didn't come home. The witness who saw Imelda by the Tower Hotel has been called into question also regarding her memory of the entire thing. There's very little information about this case, and it falls in the middle of somewhere between people feeling that it is part of the Vanishing Triangle, while many others don't. The only suspicious person in the case is her partner, Mark Wall. The red flags include him not reporting her missing. The story about the post office may have been made up, and he didn't realize that they weren't open that day due to the bank holiday. And he is also the only person to report that Imelda had told him not long before she disappeared, that she was down and out, which seemed like he was pushing all the time for a suicide story.
That is weird. He seems super sketchy.
Again, I just don't know how you just kind of go, yeah, no, I guess it has nothing to do with him.
Oh, yeah, well. I know. I don't get that. Or at least look for more evidence. But I guess if you really don't have evidence, like other than his story and shit, is it bad that when I brought up this image, I thought I was like, which one would I go for?
Oh my god, of course you did.
Can we get everyone's opinion? I'm kind of in between. Oh man, they're all like equally not that great looking.
Welcome to 90s art.
Everyone look up the images for the audio listeners, but I would maybe JoJo or I don't fucking know, maybe Fiona.
Which one?
Yeah, there's two Fionas there, Dingus.
Oh, I guess the blonde one. I was debating between both. All right, who? Oh, was she? Okay, that makes sense. All right, Anton, you're next.
Pass.
Come on, you could do one. Just pick one that you think is the most attractive.
No, none of them seem really that great. Plus, that's not exactly my thing, there, Tom. So
I know, but you can still judge. I can judge another man and be like, "Hey, this one's probably the best looking."
I don't know. They all seem like they're either 50 or 18. So
I think you're going for Ava. I think that's your feel.
Oh God.
All right, Aaron, you're up. Fucking Don't do- Come on, pick one.
I would rather not.
Yeah,
Like,
thank
end up
you,
on
Tom.
one
You
of these
fucking
lists.
weird son of a bitch.
I could end up on one of those lists.
That's true. I guess it is around your area.
Yeah, like there's I need to be very careful about one of the cases in particular. Because it's probably like 10 minutes away from where I am.
Oh shit.
So, yeah.
Do you
I
think
need
that
to-
people are gonna listen to this and then find you?
You know what, right? That was a genuine concern because I've been fascinated by this case and I really want to dig into it. And I like for obviously, for entertainment purposes or whatever, but I was actually genuinely fascinated of like, I really want to take a look at this and have a conversation about like, what the fuck is the story with this? But then obviously, we have some lighthearted fun. And I often worry like, how obviously there's real people involved that are like actually affected, like somebody belonged to them has gone missing.
Yeah.
So for anybody who does listen to it, I'm not trying to make light of the situation or anything. It's just I think it's like Tom said earlier. Sometimes it's easier to maybe process some of this stuff when you're uncomfortable by just kind of being like, "Hey,
Yeah,
which
because
one the
how
fuck?"
crazy.
Oh no, humor's a great coping method. I just wish half of Tom's jokes were actually funny.
Well, it's my weird brain, and I'm honest. I tell. Where
I
it's
know, but
going.
it's just like every word that pops into that head, maybe formulate it into a joke before you send it out.
Maybe this was a bad idea. But, fucking no, but it is weird too, right? In the fact that like I never get paranoid like that, and it's weird because like we've said a lot of shit making fun of like we try to never make fun of the victims, but it's happened like especially with episodes me and Billy have done. Just maybe their names or their you got to tread carefully because we're a dark comedy podcast. And we want to try to make light of these situations. But like I've said, when we talked about Chris Watts, that was really recent. And it was more disturbing, like where you couldn't really make jokes because how recent it was. And it's like, you can make jokes about him and how crazy he was and maybe the power of the pussy type of thing. But the thing is, that case strictly, like it was like, it's too close to home, like new, like it just happened. Doc just came out about it. So it gets like that when you think about cases that relate to where you're from or around you.
So I think the instance of this is like, imagine if the Carla Homolka, the Barbie and Ken cases were still going on because that's the closest to you. What if those were still going on and
I grew up around that.
Right, but imagine if you were doing this while that was happening, and it's like eventually someone's gonna know somebody who's gonna hear this, who's gonna send it to them, and then they get back to you. I think that's what you mean, right? Like it's more like,
it is. And the thing
no,
is,
not you, dingus.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I knew it was scary, but I did when I did grow up around Kalamoka and Paul Bernard. Like I was in that same city when I was a kid, so it was creepy to talk about it considering how close it is. Right?
But Aaron, like you're saying, you're only 2 or 3 people away from everybody knowing everybody, so it's possible that somebody hears this and it gets back to one of them, and then it comes back to you.
Yeah, like I think maybe in the case of Ireland in general, I don't want to say I don't care, but like I don't feel as concerned. But locally here, there's a lot of stuff that's been said or has gone around about the case of Fiona Sinnott that I don't know if some of those people are still around here or I don't know how they feel about it.
Okay.
They're gonna run to their friend, be like, there's this podcast, okay? And he said some shit, and then there's like people knocking at your door, screaming in their angry Irish voice.
They're just gonna be saying, "Give us the address of that Tom person. We're gonna go kick his ass."
Come find me.
You better have a spare room if I have to leave the country.
That's funny.
Okay, so in November 1995, another woman went missing, Jojo Dullard. I've heard this pronounced so many different ways, Jojo Dullard, and
no one wants to call her a dullard because you know what that is.
she had traveled from Kilkenny to Dublin to visit friends, and after missing her bus home, she decided to get a different bus to Kildare, Naas to be specific, at around 10:50 p.m. and hitched a ride to Moon once she arrived. This place is still around 70 kilometers from her home. She called her friend. Here we go again now. She called her friend from a payphone in Moon and told her the situation.
That's so weird.
But then she put down the phone and seemed to walk away from it, only to return moments later and tell her that someone had stopped and she had a lift home.
That's also weird.
However, she never arrived home and has never been seen or heard from since. Did this mystery person cause her harm? Who was the person and what was their intentions? A short time later, a woman similar to Jojo's description was seen leaning into the back door of a dark-coloured Toyota type car. There were further sightings of a woman similar to her in Castledarmot, County Kildare, which is 5 miles from Moon, at around midnight on the same evening. The driver or occupants of this Toyota have never been traced. In 2021, it was announced that a truck driver had come forward that said he had saw a woman. Now, this is just bizarre to me. He had saw a woman running naked and screaming on the night of the disappearance. He was driving with his boss at the time. So apparently he was only young, and he was like not an intern, but he was like the new guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was driving with his boss in the lorry at
So
the
his
time.
boss saw it too?
Yeah. So apparently his boss got out and attempted to run after her, like to see what was up, and she just like bolted. He couldn't catch her. So he got back in and they called the police, and they were told, don't worry about it, we'll send a car out. Which is like the Irish thing, I think at the time, is very casual. Like, look, whatever. Yeah, don't be worrying about it. We'll figure it out.
That sounds like a horror movie. Like you see a woman running through the forest across the street, like naked.
It gives me Devil's Rejects vibes or Texas Chainsaw vibes and
that's what
Last
I
House
was
on the
saying.
Left, stuff like that. Yeah.
So this is probably the first time now we're going to see from this point on where a lot of this stuff kind of crosses over. So the area that this sighting apparently took place was less than 9 kilometers from a site that was searched in the disappearance of Deirdre Jacob, who went missing a couple of years after this.
Okay.
After this, when they found out about the missing women, they went to make a statement, and it was said that the woman they saw couldn't have been Jojo, as she was seen in Castledarmot afterwards. In 2020, the case was updated from missing persons to a murder investigation. There have been a number of suspects in the case since it happened. Her family felt a man who gave contradicting statements that owned an abandoned farm was the key to finding her. However, as the land was private, a search warrant was never obtained. 15 months after the disappearance, a taxi driver came forward with information about something he saw on the night 3 miles north of Waterford, which was about 50 miles south of where she was last seen.
Okay.
He saw a red car with British number plates and a man urinating beside the car. Suddenly, he saw a distressed barefoot woman run from the rear left-hand door. A second man appeared and grabbed her by the hair, bear hugged her, and dragged her back to the car.
That is like some fucking, you're right, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, like just like fucking Leatherface grabbing the chick and dragging her into the back. Like, that's fucking scary.
I mean, but that's also kind of hostily human trafficking.
Yes,
like,
it is. Very much. Very much.
Of...
And the thing is, we have it here, but human trafficking, especially child trafficking shit, is very prevalent in Europe. That's where it takes place because everything is connected.
Well,
so
you think about it too. That way, you're not. It's not as though it's Canada where it's like, oh, we're getting the the RCMP on it, or the States where it's like we're getting the feds on it.
Man.
It's like you're talking about a series of countries. Yeah. You have to get Interpol involved, right? If you're going to try and like prosecute stuff. I know. I'd imagine it's probably the same thing as it is here. If you don't come from a place of affluence, they're not going to have the money or the influence to make it happen. You're going to bring it up, and someone's going to be like, well, sorry.
Yep. The RCMP is hiding Robert Picton's real nature.
That is crazy. The RCMP Robert Picton connection. That's pretty
fucking weird.
It's pretty fucking interesting. Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that. We're gonna do an episode about that. But Aaron, it's fucking weird. You know who Robert Picton is, right? The pig farmer. There's a connection to fucking even Trudeau and politicians in that they could been making people go missing and stuff like that, and it's really strange. And the RCMP is trying to cover it up and get rid of all the files right now, so it's fucking weird. Strange stuff going on.
I think that might just be the connection with one Mr. Trudeau, but
yeah.
So a criminal gang, apparently from the traveling community.
Oh shit!
Fucking gypsies in their fucking caravans.
Were suspected, and one man in his 20s would become a suspect after being convicted of raping a 13-year-old girl in 1997.
Jesus.
He would then go on to be known as one of the most evil and violent men in Ireland, having committed crimes against both travelling and settled people, and was also believed to be living in Dundalk around the time Ciara Breen went missing in 1997.
So this guy was going around, killing travelers?
Well, he was going around committing crimes, like, I don't know, like...
Weren't they trying to fight him every time he tried to fucking pull up?
This is... It's funny, I couldn't find this guy's name. but apparently he was living in Dundalk around the time that a girl who goes missing a little bit later, Kira Breen, went missing. And at the minute, he's serving a 21-year sentence for raping a woman in her 80s.
Holy fuck.
That's
Who
like some
was it? Was
Richard Ramirez
Ramirez.
shit.
Yeah, Ramirez.
It's like how
assaulted the old
Richard
lady.
Ramirez would just like, all right, today it's a 20-year-old, tomorrow it's an 85-year-old. It's all good. I like whatever.
Just insert the Rick James. Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it's true. I gotta get that sound plug. It's fucking weird, man.
So 4 years later, now this is the part where he enters the picture. 4 years later, a 35-year-old father of two, Larry Murphy, was arrested after he kidnapped a woman in Carlow and repeatedly raped and attempted to kill her in the Wicklow Mountains before being spotted by two hunters. Larry Murphy would go on to be a huge suspect and a part in many of these cases. Another thing I found out that this woman had also frequented a pub very, very often, apparently, where convicted murderer David Lawler also drank. He was convicted in 1995 of raping and murdering a woman by the name of Marilyn Rynn, who, right, David Lawler, who was also a convicted rapist and murderer, who drank in the same pub all the time as
Larry.
this woman.
Oh, okay.
Right, as this woman, also happened to be a close friend and distant cousin of none other than Larry Murphy.
Do you think it's like a team effort type thing, like what's his fuck and Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole?
And this was something that in the last like maybe 6 or 8 years has been looked at more and more, that maybe it wasn't just a serial killer, maybe there was multiple people involved. Because we'll see in a minute now, there's another person. Look, we might as well get into it now. Let me just pull it up here. So there's another guy by the name of Thomas Dalton, who is another cousin of Larry Murphy, who was also arrested and charged for face fucking a woman outside of a Kilkenny nightclub in 2010.
So what?
So was it assault or was she a willing participant in the face?
She was like, apparently she was like out of her mind drunk, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna face fuck you and you're just gonna.
Wow,
that's fucking crazy. Sounds like all right. That's fucked up.
Wow,
that is fucked. It's just like, all right, and then everyone's watching and fucking guys are clapping because guys are assholes. Well, it reminds me of that 80s like whole like Animal House, like we're gonna go steal the girl's panties. And
that wasn't the 80s, that was meant to be the 50s, but yes.
Like either way, we're gonna go fucking steal her panties and sniff them. We're gonna watch them naked. It's like, all right, that's maybe a bad idea.
Oh no, you're talking about Revenge of the Nerds, where it's like, so much everything in this film is you getting away with sexual assault. Like it's fucked up. No, but yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That whole meathead thing of drunk dudes walking out of the bar, they see somebody getting a blowjob, they don't know that it's a forceful one, and they're just like, yeah, woo, get it,
yeah, it's so true. Yeah,
and I think there was like multiple charges against him for that, and he only got convicted on like the final count, and he only got 12 months.
What the fuck?
It's just crazy how people can get away with that shit. And then you have people that just protest, and now they're trying to fucking jail them for fucking 10 years.
I mean, you got the justice system that works like that, where it's like, 12 months, and then over here somebody gets caught with a bag of weed in the wrong state, and they're doing fucking life.
It's fucking weird.
Fucking
yeah, no, the states are really fucking bad with our, we have I take that back. In the United States, we have the best justice system that money can buy. Yeah, if you got the money, you're getting away with it. That's basically what it comes down to. It's fun.
It's true. It's true. It's very true.
So
I wish it wasn't.
August 23rd, 1996, a 25-year-old woman by the name of Fiona Pender goes missing from her Church Street apartment in Tullamore, County Offaly. At the time she went missing, she was 7 months pregnant. She lived with her boyfriend at the time, John Thompson, having recently moved back from London at the end of the previous year. Some say that he was reluctant to this plan to move and felt like he had let his family down as he helped to keep their vast farmland. John came from lots of money, while Fiona came from a more humble background. After being out shopping with her mother all day and then getting back to the family home to chat with her parents, she got a taxi home with her mother at around 7 p.m., who made sure that she got inside safe. The following day, her mother called, but the blinds were down and she assumed that she was just resting. Later that evening, her dad walked past and the blinds were still down and no lights on inside, but he assumed that she was either still tired or maybe out with friends. The last person to have any account of seeing her was her boyfriend John at 6 a.m. on that Friday morning when he was leaving to work on the family farm about 8 miles away. He told Fiona's parents that he stayed on the farm that night and assumed Fiona was in their house. Now, this is the part I don't understand. So, her partner, who she lives with, hadn't heard from her all day. She's heavily pregnant. He for some reason conveniently decides that every other night he stays at home. He's going to stay on the family farm that night. But again, cell phones weren't readily available, so it's not like you could just check up on her. However, there were reports that there was a huge strain on the relationship from the pregnancy to differing opinions about the farm and living situations. There were reports of them being heard shouting at each other on multiple occasions, but this was never 100% proven.
So Fiona was pregnant?
Yeah, 7 months pregnant.
When she disappeared?
Yep.
That's fucked up, man.
Almost ready to pop, too. Like 7 months, you got 2 more to go.
That's fucking crazy.
Witnesses came forward with 2 different sightings. One man said he was leaving. Again, now this is fucking I don't understand this. One man said he was leaving a pub at 2 a.m. that night and saw 2 men bundling a bulky item wrapped in carpet into the back of a large 4x4 vehicle.
These there's not much. I'd say there's not much you wrap in carpet other than a body. So
that's true.
And this kind of ties in with another completely separate witness statement that said they saw a 4x4 driving erratically on a back road near the Slieve Bloom Mountains, which is where Larry Murphy committed that crime.
Oh, shit.
Which is about 20 miles from Tullamore. He saw one person inside the car, and the only other thing he could remember was there was a sticker on the windscreen saying, "Keep her lit." This person was never found. In April 97, John Thompson, his father, and 3 sisters were arrested on suspicion of her disappearance, but were released after 12 hours of questioning. They were critical of the Garda about this and feel they were painted as the culprits without any evidence. The case spanned as far as America when a woman accused her husband of physical and sexual attacks against her. And apparently one night in a rage, he said, "I killed that bitch Fiona Pender and you'll be next."
What? And he was in the States?
She offered the exact locations that he detailed, but it yielded little results. Apparently, this man's name was John Thompson.
So that's fucking weird.
To the States.
That's really weird. So this guy, an Irishman, moved to the States, and then he's dating a chick, and he's beating her up and be like, I killed that chick in Ireland, and it's just like, that's fucked up.
But
that's crazy.
They done like extensive searches in recent years and didn't find anything. There was also in the Slieve Bloom Mountains a couple of years back, there was a crucifix found, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is fucking weird. A crucifix found, and on it someone had carved Fiona Pender, buried here, and then a date.
That's fucking weird.
What the actual fuck?
That is creepy. And again, always the forest shit brings it back to some creepy haunted shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I'm sure they checked the area and didn't find anything.
Yeah.
Did they dig?
Yeah, they, those mountains and like majority of that area has like literally been torn apart time and time again, and
just looking for that's.
Do they
crazy.
ever use like sonic technology or anything like that? Like the things that like
read the ground.
Yeah.
A lot of what they've done in recent years hasn't really been released. Now I feel that means that they're like, yeah, let's just say we can't release the information because we didn't do fucking anything.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I was more on the idea that it was an Irish Illuminati, that it was kidnapping these women for satanic rituals.
So of course that's where your fucking burnt out mind goes. So is it on the conspiracy side of it, but less on the batshit crazy conspiracy side of it? Is Larry like connected to anyone? Does he like have like a distant relative that's a position of power anywhere?
No. So this is the thing. Before he was caught for that rape and attempted murder, he had no previous convictions. He wasn't known at all to the police. Like he
Weird.
wasn't on any file for not even a parking ticket.
Crazy.
And apparently when they came into his house, like he was married with 2 kids when he done that.
Yeah.
And when they came to his house the following day, he opened the front door and like they were like, "Yeah, are you Larry Murphy or whatever?" And he was like, "Yep." And then he just went, apparently he went, "I don't know why I done it." And then he put his head in his hands and he was like, I don't know. I just, I, he went to go rob her money first. And he was like, it just spiraled. One thing led to another. And then I don't know. And then he actually said to them, he said, "Can we go inside and can I get my wife and can we tell her?" And
That's
like
fucking
fuck?
weird.
they went in with him and he woke his wife up and he was like, "Yeah, this is, I raped a girl last night, blah, blah, blah." And it seemed like he was going to kind of like, I suppose, cooperate with them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As soon as they got to the police station, he's like, "Yeah, no, I robbed her and yeah, okay, I did rape her the first time. But then after that, she wanted to make love to me. So we went
Cops
back
like,
into the
okay, I believe
we
you.
got back into the car and she made love to me." And there was actually fear at one point that uh, a jury might think that it was consensual. And now
Yeah.
he had, apparently her injuries were absolutely horrific. Like he had orally raped her, vaginally raped her, anally raped her.
Is vaginally a word?
Here it is. That's
Fuck.
our pronunciation. Vaginally is the
Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. I
yeah.
mispronounce everything on this
There's
podcast.
like,
He really
for
does.
example, Tullamore. Like I would say Tullamore, right? And anytime I ever listen to anyone cover this case, because majority of people who cover this aren't from Ireland, they
Weird,
tend to pronounce
strange, yeah.
Tullamore.
Tullamore?
What?
Yeah.
How?
Weird.
There's
That's weird.
literally a fucking whiskey that's in every bar in the States that's called Tullamore.
Yeah, Tullamore.
Weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of like pronunciations that I heard of some of this stuff, and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, you should just hear me butcher everything. I bet there's some people in some countries just screaming at me.
It's the number one negative review that we have besides Tom is an ableist.
Yeah, that's true.
I think not long after this, another girl went missing. She had went to bed that night. Her mother checked on her at 2 a.m. and she was missing from her room. She was 17 at the time. It was soon discovered that the window opposite the roadway was left open on the latch, which indicated that she snuck out.
Mhm.
Something her friends would later say that she done quite often. The reason for her sneaking out is unknown or who she was meeting, until news came that a local older man had been seen talking to Kira on several occasions and even heard asking if he could see her later, to which she apparently replied, "I'll sneak out when my mum goes to bed." Kira's mother
So
had
this guy's
also
trying to
said,
persuade her, yeah.
yeah, apparently he was like a groovy creep.
Groovy creep.
Yep.
Kira's mother had also said that she had, on several occasions, gotten rid of him from the front garden, trying to chat with her young daughter. The man's name was Liam Mullen, who was
Did she run out with a
known-
broom? Get away from my daughter. Or did she throw potatoes at him?
Oh my
And see,
fucking
again,
god,
right?
Tom.
Again, right? This dude Liam Mullen, they say that he was known as the local creep, and this was just kind of a thing. Like a lot of the teenagers be like, he's like the creepy older guy who wants to like hang out with young people.
That's how it was back in the day here too. It was like molestation and shit like that was so common that it was like, oh, don't stay with Uncle Steve for too long by yourself because
This dude was arrested in 1999 and then again in 2015, and he died in police custody in 2017. And many believe that he was responsible for the murder of Kira Breen.
Strange. That is weird.
So then we'll go really quickly through these ones. So next
Yeah.
is the Wexford case, Fiona Sinnott. Sunday, February 8th, 1998, Fiona was enjoying a drink in her local pub, Butler's, in Broadway. She called home and asked her brother to join her, which he declined. She seemed adamant that he join her, but after he mentioned working early the next morning, she didn't put up an argument. Sean Carroll, her ex-boyfriend and father to her 11-month-old daughter, was also drinking and smoking in the pub, but he was alone that night. When she left, she did so with him, and they walked back to her house together, and he says that he slept on the couch and she slept in her room upstairs. The following morning, Fiona told him that she would attend a doctor for a pain in her arm, and he gave her £5 to get a taxi there. He was then collected by his mother and went back to the family home where their daughter had stayed the night before. The police noted that the house she rented was spotlessly clean and missing some key items that she would have had. Sometime after this, a local farmer noted that he found some black bags of rubbish on his land that indeed contained items with Fiona's name on them. Thinking
That's
this was a
weird.
case of illegal dumping, he burned the items and only came forward when he heard the news of the missing persons case.
It's like,
This
I
led,
don't want anything to do with this. I'm just gonna fucking burn it.
this led Gardaí to believe that someone was attempting to throw them off the trail and make it seem that if she had maybe ran away. There have been several arrests made in the years following her disappearance, and there are many theories about people close to her that may know what happened that night.
Jesus.
Again, it's another one of those cases. I think she's kind of been excluded from the triangle. They reckon, I think, that her ex-boyfriend was probably the one to fucking kill her, and then his family.
It is weird that this is
Yeah.
all around the same place, but like realistically, it could be a couple of different people, boyfriends or some shit like that. But maybe, you know, Larry Murphy or one of these other dudes, like the Thompson guy, whatever. Maybe they killed like 2 or 3 of them, and then maybe 2 or 3 that we think is part of the same umbrella of killings or vanishings at least.
Well, there's
Are,
always the
different
possibility
people.
that while things like that are going on, someone's going to take advantage of the chaos and be like,
Yeah,
well, I'm going to
true.
settle a score, or I'm going to do something, and it's going to get lumped in with this, and then, you
Yeah.
know.
Look what's happening in the Ukraine right now. They gave them guns and guys went down the street and started shooting their fucking neighbor. Like, this guy, he fucked my wife one time, so I went over and shot him because
To use a less contemporary example, a lot of scores were settled on 9/11 because all of the emergency services were occupied. So there documented like a bunch of gangland violence during September 11, 2001.
I never thought about that, but that'd be true. Like the Purge, like it's
Yeah.
just like, all right, I'm gonna go get my fucking shotgun, and this guy down the block that pissed on my lawn one time, he made his dog shit on my lawn, and I shot him. So it's like, shit, that's fucking nuts. I didn't even think about that.
The final disappearance then in this, and this is another one that Larry Murphy is apparently connected to. So July 28th, 1998, Deirdre Jacob went missing just yards from her front door. She had been spotted by over 6 different people on the street she lived on, and one even saw her in her driveway. However, she never made it home. What happened? Where did she go? Why was she followed? A prisoner who was housed with Larry Murphy came forward and said that Larry confessed to killing her, and searches were conducted but with no progress. It is also believed that maybe he had work in the area around the time that she went missing. He was a qualified carpenter, so apparently he traveled around a lot. Another man, Rory O'Connor, a convicted double rapist and murderer, was interviewed about his
That's a good
friendship.
resume.
Was interviewed about his friendship with Larry Murphy, but refused to give much away. They had been living together in Amsterdam for some time and were said to keep to themselves, owning a motorbike together that they used to disappear for transport from time to time. So, this thing, she's spotted like walking in her front door, apparently near her front door, and then
The
she just
CCTV footage, that the black and white image of her.
So
Yeah.
there's another little bit here that connects Larry Murphy to this as well. Her grandmother, I think it was, had a shop somewhere, and when she died and they went through her stuff, they found paperwork with Larry Murphy's name and phone number on it.
Oh shit.
So apparently it turns out that he had done some carpentry work for her at one point. But again, just seems like awful coincidentally he seems to appear in a lot of these things.
Yeah, he really does seem to just pop up whenever something crazy is going on. And like you were saying, it is a small area, but it's probably not that small that, you know, he just happens to be connected to all of these.
In 2018, a woman by the name of Justine Valdez was kidnapped by 40-year-old Mark Hennessy. He's now being investigated to see if he had any involvement with the Triangle disappearances. He was shot dead by police, and Valdez's body was found dumped in an old mine. So he's only in the last like 3 or 4 years, he's kind of been pulled into it to see, does he have any connection? Because again, another guy who had no previous convictions, no parking tickets, no speeding tickets, nothing, and then all of a sudden just decides to abduct and murder somebody, throw them in an abandoned mine, and then get in a shootout with police.
You got in a shootout with the police too?
Yeah, they shot him dead.
So why the fuck? It's just like if you have no prior, well, at least they don't know, at least that you have no prior convictions and you don't seem to have a life of crime or stuff like that, and then all of a sudden you most maybe killed this chick. But the thing is, why did he shoot at? Like, why was there a shootout if he was innocent?
And I think the FBI in the last couple of years had been kind of pulled in to look at this, and they were the ones that suggested maybe you should actually start to entertain the idea that maybe these guys weren't completely innocent and all of a sudden just decided randomly to go and like brutally rape and abduct and murder women. Maybe
Like,
they were
has that like
rapists.
are these guys all possessed? Maybe there's a fucking demon in the triangle. Because like how like why all these if it is say different people in you know not a small area but not a large area, and then you know this guy fucking murders a woman, throws her in a fucking mine, and then shoots out the police, and then you got Larry Murphy's weird ass, the boogeyman of Ireland, and then you know it is weird. If it is different people, it is strange.
Well, was
Around the
Deidre
same-
the one that was found in the
years.
field? Was it didn't one of the bodies they said was found in the field? Wasn't that the one who the farmer found her clothes or whatever?
Um,
I had the tab pulled up and it's gone now.
and I know there's another guy in recent years as well who's been pulled into this whole thing. A guy by the name of John Creer. He was suspected as being involved potentially after he murdered, or after it was found out that he murdered a woman called Phyllis Murphy. He murdered her in 1979. And after he'd given an alibi, he was given an alibi by a work friend. He was cleared for nearly 20 years before information was given anonymously, and DNA testing proved that he was the killer. He denied even knowing her, even though she had babysat his children on many occasions.
Wow.
The Wicklow area where she was
Weird.
found was also close to the Sleeboom Mountains, which Larry Murphy was known to have prowled.
This guy is the Irish
a
boogeyman.
roving gang of rapists that are working like together or something
Yeah.
like that.
And
Like we all get off in the same fashion. Let's fucking do it.
I think the reason as well, and I do believe that Larry Murphy is probably connected to probably 4 of those cases.
Mhm.
The reason being is he has what, 2 cousins that have also been convicted of like similar things.
Yep.
He has a best friend who he moved to Amsterdam with, who's a convicted double rapist and murderer.
Mhm.
He seems to always like he was living in Spain for a time, and I think he was living with some other like shitbag rapist dude. And apparently right now he's working as a carpenter in London.
That's
What the
fucking
fuck?
weird. And it's just like, do they like it was before really the internet was popping off and shit. Like, is there like a meeting place? It's just they meet beside a playground and they're like, all right, this is and then they give each other looks, like they have like a sign, like a fucking hand sign or a face look, and then they're all hanging out, and it's weird.
That's what I don't understand. How the
connected.
fuck, like, how was he organizing? Like, so he was in prison with this dude.
Well, that's how, because that's
Yeah,
how it is
in
in the
prison.
States. It's prison. People meet in prison and then they like just go
So
from there.
The guy gets out and moves to Amsterdam, and then 2.5 years later, Larry Murphy gets out, and the first place he goes is Amsterdam. And I'm trying to think of like, how the fuck, right? Say he walks out of prison. What's your first move to even get in contact with, like?
Yeah, I know.
Like,
They were probably sending letters back and forth. They were probably stayed in touch when he was out, and it very well might have been like, hey, I got this spot, I'm setting it up, you're gonna need somewhere to go, just come here.
Yeah, it's fucking. It is weird, and the fact that he had family, that like also had obviously sick tendencies. You know what I mean? And like, it's fucking really weird. Like the fact that it's pretty rare to have a family. Yeah, it's not that rare to have a crazy family member, but then to have like 2 or 3 people that are like in your family that are connected to some weird shit or rape or something, that is fucking weird. It's like we're all of them raped, and then it's just like, well, now we got to take it out on somebody else, or they were touched or molested, or that does happen.
And again, like where Deirdre Jacob, who was like the last woman who disappeared, who's like seriously considered as being involved in this Vanishing Triangle, because there is actually a lot more disappearances that may have loose links to this whole thing.
I heard about one in 2012.
Yeah, and there's ones even more recent than that.
That's crazy.
But this Deirdre Jacob one was one of the last like serious ones that were
Yeah.
considered. I mean, the area that they believe her to have went missing or potentially been killed in is 15 kilometers away from a place called Baltinglass, which is where Larry Murphy grew up.
Oh, no shit.
It does sound like this guy is the culprit. Like it does very much sound like it's like the serial killer that they like never caught. You know what I mean?
Which is also not far from Moon, which is where Jojo Dullard was last seen at that phone box.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which is strange. And they have information apparently that leads them to believe that Larry Murphy was traveling through that area on that night.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
apparently was working on some building site that was like very close to that area. Again, just all seems a little bit too coincidental that he seems to be around.
Remember, Anton, coincidences don't exist. Okay.
No, Tom, coincidences very much do exist. You
Everything
simple
happens for
creature.
a fucking reason. Okay.
Yes.
Everything happens for a reason. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. Okay. Okay. Get it? Okay. He probably murdered fucking because he could have maybe murdered and killed. Like if you're good, you're good. Like if you're like maybe he's just like he knows that the cops are useless, but the thing is that he just has a method that not many serial killers have perfected, where he can kind of go. But who knows though? Because how is he not in jail for like? It's just like he seems like the prime suspect.
I know, right? And like he's in London at the minute, and right now, they started a thing a while back called Operation Trace, which was they pulled like
Yes.
6 of, I suppose, the best detectives and different things from around the country together to look at these cases collectively.
Mhm.
And as a result of that, then they really consider him probably the number one suspect in Annie McCarrick's disappearance, Jojo Dullard, and Deirdre Jacob. And at the minute, I think the director of public prosecutions, which would be like for you guys, it'd be like the DA or whatever.
Mhm.
They're preparing a file right now to potentially put a case against him for Deirdre Jacobs' murder and have him extradited from the UK
Oh, no shit. Okay.
back to
And
Ireland.
he's just gonna go somewhere else.
No, if they extradite him and they get him pulled back, I mean, I would imagine what is like bounty hunting out where you guys are? Is that a thing?
Yeah, it is, but like we don't really ever hear about it.
That's
Okay.
weird. I could see the Irish. What's the bounty hunter in the States?
Dog the
Stupid
Bounty
fucking
Hunter.
Dog,
Dog,
Dog's a
yeah.
fucking piece of shit. Like that guy's
It's
a
such a whack
scumbag.
show, man.
It's so stupid. But he's not even he's a character. He's not like the big bounty hunter. Like I guess he is, but who cares? Fuck Dog.
He's actually like do you remember that Gabby Petito case and stuff?
Mhm. Yeah, when he said he was gonna go look for her or whatever.
And he went out there and like, you know, whatever they found, and then he turns around and goes, no, that's not the case. We have this other suspect and they're completely wrong, and we're going to give our information to the FBI and this and that. And it's like, you fucking scumbag, you've become irrelevant now and you have no TV show at the minute.
Yeah,
so you've
true.
literally just decided to get in the middle of this case to be like,
Mhm.
hey, anyone want to give me a TV show?
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, it was him grasping at straws, being like, "Please look at me again." It's like everyone's tired of you. You were an early 2000s thing. Just go away.
And like, do you remember he was with that that wife he had?
Oh
that
God.
like huge, big titted blonde woman.
Yes,
And she ended up,
yeah.
unfortunately, she got cancer or whatever and died. And he was like all
Yep.
distraught, and he done like these interviews with like, I don't know, fucking Oprah or Dr. Phil or some shit. And he was like, "Oh, I'm never gonna get over this." And literally, like 6 months later, he was marrying one of her best friends who literally looks exactly like her.
The dude is
Yeah.
not exactly the picture of mental stability. So
No. His
And he
family
got-
are all
he got
like
bogged
fucking
the county.
scumbags as well.
everybody in his family looks like they're on meth. Like, and I know that was Dog's
Yeah.
thing before, is that he was a meth head, but like they really do all look
How
like
do
a
you even
bunch
get
of
a show,
tweakers.
man? It's like so
Because
crazy.
he had that whole big thing where he went down to Mexico and like pulled back some rapist or something from Mexico, which actually almost caused an international affair with Mexico. Like it was like the Mexican government like contacted the U.S. government, was like, "What the fuck do you think you're doing?" Like, because the person he went after like apparently had really heavy cartel ties and stuff too. So it's like Dog probably should have ended up in a barrel on fire.
I read his autobiography, and apparently after that, they like had this whole big court case that they tried to keep under quiet. Apparently, he nearly went to jail forever because of that.
Yep. Yeah, I think he went to prison in Mexico at one point in time. Mexico was like, "You're sending him down here for extradition because we want his ass."
Yeah, so Ireland doesn't have Bog the bounty hunter, and he's a short
Bog the bounty hunter? That fucking pun. Hang your head in shame.
I'm here to fucking find out where these serial killers are.
He wasn't there for any of that conversation. He was just trying to think of something funny to say.
I had it at the very beginning, and I was like, I'm gonna let them talk about Dog for a bit.
Well, at least you didn't do mushroom tea before this episode, Tom.
I didn't.
I know, that's why I said at least you didn't.
Yeah, I've been doing fucking
the last 3 episodes we've recorded together. Tom's like, so I took like a 0.5 of mushrooms. I was like, you fucking asshole.
It's fun though.
So what do we think then? Just from hearing what we've heard today, what would you say is the most viable
serial killer? Which brings us in the next episode. I'm gonna say a serial killer because there's nothing too mysterious where it's like. It's a mystery, yes, but it's most likely a physical person.
Well, I don't think it's a fucking, it's a trickster god going around snatching up people. I honestly think that, I mean, obviously, Larry Bishop is most likely.
Larry Murphy
is most likely number one suspect, yes. Obviously. But I think there might be something to the whole like group effort going on here, like a loose connection of convicted rapists who met each other through prison or through other means or whatever. And maybe if they're not all connected, maybe they're helping to cover up for each other or something like that.
100%.
Like you said about like, maybe there was 2 people that took advantage of the situation. Larry Murphy was maybe like for the victims. And then, 2 other guys were like taking advantage of it. Or it's just like, there is a lot of times where other victims will be blamed on a serial killer that got caught. That's like, I killed like 40 people and meanwhile like 10, like, and then they're like, oh, well, he probably killed her. And he's like, yeah, I killed her. And then,
people will cop to bodies. I mean, if you've reached a point where you're like, oh, there's no way that I'm going to, either not get the death penalty or I'm not going to ever see, a fucking to see the light of day again. Sorry, I had to think for a second. That they're gonna be like, yeah, I killed them. I killed 14 more people. I killed this. I killed that. And for strawberry milkshakes, I'll show you where the bodies are. And then they just take them on wild goose chases. Like
Clifford Olsen, man. Clifford Olsen did that. He's like, here, if the cops in Canada paid Clifford Olsen.
Yeah, that was fucking crazy.
He would just be like, this is where the body is, and they would just take him out, and he'd have a grand old time, and he was able to give money to his family. It's fucked.
And with Larry as well, when he got convicted of that fucking rape and attempted murder, he was sentenced to 15 years, I think. No, sorry, I want to say he was sentenced to 23 years. And then that was reduced to 15 for some bullshit reason. And then he got out after 10 for good behavior. And that was in the year 2000, right? That he was convicted and whatever. And that was before there was something passed in 2001 in Ireland. I can't remember exactly what the law itself was, but basically when he got out of prison, he didn't need to be like registered anywhere or like followed, or they didn't need to see where he was going or anything like that. That's weird. That's why he's been allowed, because a lot of people wonder like, well, how does this motherfucker travel all over Europe and just do whatever? Because legally speaking, they don't have any grounds to like just do whatever he wants. Yeah, he can just do whatever.
It's weird. Your justice system sounds just as bad as ours.
It's fucking bizarre. I actually seen him. You guys mentioned about like, people claiming things just to get stuff or whatever. I can't remember the name of the case, but I was watching something only like a week ago where they had this guy pulled in for some sort of disappearance, and he basically just kept them, giving them like drip feeding them like false information, and he would be like, right, where's my Coke? Where's my McDonald's?
I want my pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, they would like bring him shit, and he'd be like, I need a cigarette so I can think. And like he done this for like hours on end, and it turns out that he literally had nothing to do with whatever.
Yeah, tons of people
wanted to get free shit from the cops.
Yeah, he was just he was in there for something else, and I think he told somebody in the jail like, oh, I know what happened.
That's
and they pulled him in.
being sneaky.
Wow.
So it's a strange case, that's for sure. This will be good as like kind of a little series to do because next like I said, I want to getting into the Vanishing Triangle. It's people missing. It might be connected to a serial killer. I would love to talk about maybe a bunch of different Irish serial killers and see like because you don't really hear about it too often. Obviously, you have more or less the states with the it just the cases that they have and how horrified a lot of serial killers can be in the states. It happens slightly in Canada, but it's nothing like the United States when it comes to the sensationalism of serial killers. And I hear some about fucking British people killing fucking people, but I don't hear much about the Irish.
Yeah, we should probably maybe broaden that a little bit and not just serial killers and maybe just murderers in Ireland because there is some cases of serial killers, but there's a lot of like crazy one-off murders as well that are just fucking.
Yeah, we can do that.
There's a pair of sisters called Linda and Charlotte Mulhall that were branded as the Scissor Sisters.
I feel like I remember that. Did they bounce their legs together? Like did they like?
Oh my!
They did not. They killed and dismembered their mother's boyfriend.
Jesus.
He was killed with a Stanley blade. He was smashed in pieces with a hammer. His head and penis were sliced off, and the rest of his corpse was dismembered and dumped in the Royal Canal in Dublin, where pieces of his legs were spotted floating past the biggest stadium in Ireland, Croke Park. And then a lot of other shit came out afterwards. They were like chopping him up in the bathtub and like doing a lot of crazy.
That's fucking brutal.
How old were these chicks?
I'm not sure, but if you look up Scissor Sister case on Google for anybody who's listening to this and just click on the images, you'll see these ugly motherfuckers. They look like they're going through a sex change.
Here, I'll bring it up.
I'm gonna look up Scissor Sisters, and it's just gonna take me straight to porn.
That is weird, and like I want to get into a bunch of this band got pulled up.
Yeah.
A band called Scissor Sisters.
Yeah, of course there is. Holy shit!
If nobody looks Irish, these people definitely look Irish. These chicks look like they're Irish. You can
I'm almost gonna click images, but then I'm worried that when I do that, I'm gonna get a bunch of crime scene photos. Be like, oh god.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. They look. I'm not gonna say it, but yeah.
Go for it.
Anton's not gonna like this. They kind of look like trans. She looks a little manly, a little butch. Both.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I don't even mean that as like a jokey slight, but when I look at that, I'm like, yeah.
They look scary looking though. Like they look like they killed somebody. Like the gaunt eyes. Like,
do you know what's mad about that? I would have said at one point in the country here, like that would have been considered like your kind of like typical. I don't want to say woman, but like I suppose like your common like kind of trailer trashy.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I feel like especially the blonder one. She looks kind of like an Irish gypsy that you could see her like with her caravan and hanging out and sucking Brad Pitt's dick.
Yeah, but there's a shitload of crazy cases like that here.
Yeah, I think Charlie is freaking out. That's fucking weird, and we'll get into that next time when we'll talk about different serial killers. Like I'll maybe get some serial killers, then you can get some murders, and we'll kind of mash it up a little bit. And because of how close this is to you, obviously I try to hold back a little bit of the jokes, but I think it's gonna be I'm gonna find it interesting to dive into some of the true crime, especially crazy murder cases of Ireland.
Do you know what I will say though? If I do die as a result of this or go missing, at least you'll have a cool show to do.
You'll be fine.
And then somehow we're both gonna end up murdered because they're gonna, tap people that they have over here.
Yeah. I'm gonna get murdered by a short ginger man in a fucking couple months.
Oh my god. With a potato.
Potato.
Anally rape you with a potato.
That's what fucking Anton's joke was when we did the
every murder that happens in Canada only happens with a maple leaf or a hockey stick, so it's fine.
I get drowned in maple syrup. You get how people used to think Jeffrey Dahmer got a broom shoved up his ass. Over here, you get a hockey stick just deep inside your anus.
No, they just stuff a whole thing of maple leaves down your throat and then pour Molson down it until you eventually die.
Very, very quickly before we
Right.
end the show, I just want to ask both you guys. Obviously, you don't have to get like super into it, but from both of your opinions, what's like the, I suppose, missing person or disappearance or vanishing case that like really, really sticks out every time someone mentions something like that? Is there one that like sticks in your mind? You're like, fuck, that just seems so bizarre and crazy, and I would love to know.
Oh, I got Elisa Lamb is fucking weird. That
Mm,
like in
The
fact that
elevator found in the
yes,
water
Cecil
tank.
Hotel.
Yeah.
Cecil Hotel. And me and Billy, that's a fucking throwback to a way older episode. But that shit is weird. And I just like debate if I ever want to do it an episode again, like covering that. But I think we did it enough justice. But the Elisa Lamb thing is fucking weird. Okay. Because Anton got me into Discovery Plus. I watched the fucking Ghost Adventures where they go to the Cecil Hotel and like the footage of it, because it brought me back to it recently, is creepy. She's like looking out of the elevator
yeah,
and then
strange.
how she got into the tank and it closed. That whole entire case sends shivers down my spine, especially when you see the footage and you envision her and how like, this dead, creepy hotel that Richard Ramirez and Jack Uniwager stayed at.
Mhm.
And then two serial killers stayed there. And then you have this chick and then how haunted and how many people committed suicide there. Like literally somebody jumped from the Cecil Hotel and then landed on somebody else and killed them. That's how fucked
Yeah.
this is. Or Cecil?
Whatever.
What about you, Antonio Banderas?
Honestly, probably the same. That one's really the one that it's very weird. I mean, there is the case to be made for it just being unchecked severe mental illness, and then she just in a paranoid frenzy crawled into a thing and died because there was no way for her to get out. But
obviously you have the
knows?
Black Dahlia too, because yes, she disappeared, but they found her body. But
yeah, Black Dahlia is not really a disappearance. But I mean, I guess neither is Lisa Lamb by that's category. But I would say the missing 411 shit in the cave system. That's the thing that really comes to mind whenever anyone mentions missing people.
Which we wanted to cover that and go in deeper. Me and Just talked about strange disappearances way back in the day of the show, but I would like to do more of extensive episode about it because man, the cave system shit's weird. And
It is.
You know what we always say. Give me a sec.
Do it.
Not that
Reptile
one.
wins.
Okay.
Reptile wins.
It's reptilians, man. They're fucking
One episode, Tom. We can't go through one episode without you mentioning the fucking reptilians.
They mostly come at night. Mostly.
Okay. That was pretty good. I enjoyed this a lot, and it was creepy because it's something I never knew about. And same with like
this is my first time hearing all this stuff, and it's fascinating.
It's funny. It's too bad we didn't know you because it would have been pretty good to have all four of us on when we did the Irish mythical monsters episode for St. Paddy's Day, or when I got horribly drunk watching drunken videos for the Patreon, and there's for the St. Paddy's Day live show. But like I've always liked getting and learning about different style cases, especially in countries which maybe I haven't looked into as deeply. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about some Irish serial killers and murders.
Yeah, I would say the one thing that still, even after doing this and rereading books and listening to podcasts and watching documentaries and doing as much digging as I could, I still feel like that a lot of these cases are still like, even this book here, it's quite a
it's thick.
Yeah, it's a 300-page book, but I don't know, it still feels very just barely on the surface. A lot of the details, I don't think, in my opinion, are really details.
No, I agree. It's very vague.
Yeah, like all these cases seem to be very vague and just kind of like, yeah, that's not really, yeah. And then even when you go online, there's not really that many conversations happening or rumors or theories. It's just kind of like, yeah, it's probably Larry Murphy.
Yeah,
They're either keeping the information close to the chest, or they're just not investigating a lot. It seems like.
Yeah, they don't give a fucking shit, which happens in every country. Canada has that same thing when it comes to cops. They're lazy and they don't want to, or they have ties to it. Who fucking knows? But it's a strange case, and it will be exciting to come back to your country, the old Ireland.
Absolutely.
Oh God, you have to work on that accent.
Ireland. I'm going to Ireland.
It's fucking horrible, Tom.
Jesus, man.
Can you give me your best Canadian?
God, what does a Canadian accent even sound like?
Me, like just.
Oh, it sounds like this. Canadians.
accent. You could, I guess, you could go Newfie. Hey, buddy, go down to the potato farm, hey, buddy.
If you're gonna go Newfie, you just gotta go Trailer Park Boys. That's the Newfoundland accent.
This is probably going to be like, it's going to sound really bad, but a lot of times I can't tell the difference between an American accent and Canadian accent.
No,
Yeah,
because there's not much. Especially Minnesota and Canada are pretty much the same fucking thing. A whole bunch of A.
Eh?
A
Yeah,
blue-
but you have different places like Texas and stuff like that, where Brooklyn and stuff like that. But if you have like people like Joe Rogan always talks about, he has that joke where he's like, what do you, everyone's got different accents and stuff like that. He's making fun of a bunch of accents. And he's like, what are you going to say about fucking California, that we speak clear and concise? Like,
no, they don't. They're like, it's y'all, it's fucking California. Like, it's the fucking Californians on Saturday Night Live. What are you doing here?
All right, I'm still waiting on your attempt at a fucking American Canadian accent.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I know he's not talking about my attempt at an American accent because
what I'll do actually is for the next episode we do, I'm gonna have an attempt for both separately.
Okay, yeah, you should, definitely do that, and you even that'd be a good idea. I'll work.
I have to go and actually listen to a Canadian accent, see can I even notice the difference.
No, it's true. There is really not much, unless you go certain places of Canada, like BC. They have a lot more twang kind of in their voice. There is accents around Canada, but unless you go to Quebec and then we just want to cut them off with a saw, they can get their fucking crazy accents out of here. I'm gonna lose all our French listeners. All right, that was a good show. I enjoyed that. Everybody shout out their shit. Obviously, you know where to find us, www.strangebrewpodcast.com. Or follow the Instagram at Strange Brew Podcast. We have the Host Heads page on Facebook. But yeah, the website will direct you towards all of that stuff.
HP Shelfcraft on Instagram, Invader Daggett _TTV on Twitch.
Wait, and the time this
Reverend Kaiju's House of Trash.
Time this comes out, me and Aaron's episode on the Irish Travelers should be out, where you actually can sit with us and you can watch the documentary that we talked about. That was a very fucking interesting episode. So check that out. That'll be on the Patreon soon.
Another strange folklore myth from Ireland, the Travelers. www.classhorrorcast.com for me. That has everything basically to do with the podcast, social media, and whatever. And as regards social media, I'm only really active on Instagram, and even that I'm like terrible at that sometimes as well.
Yes, you are.
I'm like so fucking, I don't know what's wrong with my account. I tried to like switch it to a business account and back, and like my messages like go into like requests and like disappear into like the archive folder and stuff. Weird. And I'm like, but yeah, www.classhorrorcast.com, and on Instagram it's First Class Horror. Yeah,
and for everybody out there, stay classy, stranger.
Oh my god.
All right. I guess peace out. Watch the skies and watch your butthole.
Tom's stealing my line just because I want to tell him to shove a potato up his ass.
Get a potato up your bum.